Josep Bartomeu resigned as president of FC Barcelona about a month and a half ago, bringing an end to his more than 5.5-year reign at the Camp Nou. During that time, Bartomeu managed to take Barcelona from being one of the most talented and successful teams in the entire history of the sport into a global laughingstock on the verge of bankruptcy. His legacy will be defined by woeful mismanagement of finances, a steep downturn on the pitch, and the decision to take on Barcelona's greatest player of all time in the court of public opinion. Bartomeu lost that battle, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, but Barca face a long road back to the top of the Spanish, let alone the European game. A new manager, Ronald Koeman, who was Bartomeu's controversial choice to replace Quique Setien, has overseen Barcelona's worst start to a league campaign in 32 years. Anyhow, if you're interested in Bartomeu's reign as Barca president, I have made a video all about that. But today's video is a look at some of the worst signings of Barca's ex-president's close to 6-year stint at the club. As always, I would reiterate that these are the worst signings, taking a multitude of factors into account, and in my opinion, they are not the 7 worst players signed on Josep Bartomeu's watch. Without further ado then, here are the 7 worst signings of the Josep Bartomeu era at Barcelona. Ousmane Dembele. I was reluctant to include Ousmane Dembele in this 7 because I do believe that he is a sensational player, and obviously he has had a wretched time with injuries. Whilst his fee was absolutely enormous, costing the club €105 million, with a further €40 million in potential future add-ons, I suspect that were it not for injuries, he would now be universally regarded as one of the finest wide players on the planet. Dembele was phenomenal in his single season at Borussia Dortmund, although when one thinks that Dortmund sold him for a potential €145 million and then signed Jadon Sancho for around €10 million during the same summer, you have to doff your cap to the club's recruitment team. Anyhow, back to Dembele, who had an injury-plagued debut campaign at the Camp Nou, and that rather set the tone for his time in Catalonia, thus far at least. In 3.5 seasons, he has only been able to register 59 league appearances and 86 in all competitions. Naturally, repeated setbacks have also stunted his development, hindered his momentum, and possibly, albeit hopefully not, prevented him from becoming the player he ought to have become. Despite his mammoth fee, Dembele only comes in at 7th since he's still only 23, and I certainly don't believe that we've seen the last of him. Nonetheless, the fact that he cost over €100 million in relation to the contribution he has been able to make, largely through no fault of his own or the club's, means that he has to feature. Although I would say he is quite possibly the only signing in this 7 that I wouldn't hold Bartomeu partly responsible for. Paco Alcacer. Paco Alcacer is undoubtedly a sharp-eyed centre-forward who knows how to find the back of the net. We saw that at Valencia, we saw it at Borussia Dortmund, and we're certainly seeing it now at Villarreal. Heck, we even saw glimpses of it during his time at Barcelona. However, he never seemed like the right fit at the Camp Nou. A genuine throwback of a striker, Alcacer is a poacher, and in truth, he never fit in at Barca. In his first season, Alcacer struggled for game time, which was understandable in a squad with a front 3 made up of Neymar, Luis Suarez, and Lionel Messi. However, in Alcacer's second season, with Neymar having departed for Paris Saint-Germain, he scored even fewer goals than he had done the previous season in both the league and in all competitions. Whilst others thrive around world-class players, Alcacer seemed to shrink, with some suggesting he might have felt an inferiority complex. For a cold-blooded goal-getter who is so reliant on confidence, that was never likely to end well, and Alcacer only scored 15 goals in 50 games in total in Catalonia. He cost the club €30 million, he had 2 subpar seasons at the Camp Nou, and he was sold for €23 million. All in all, that's enough to just about squeak into this 7, narrowly ahead of some honourable mentions that we will come to later on. Antoine Griezmann. An inclusion that I suspect will be met with some opposition, Antoine Griezmann has no doubt shown improved form in difficult circumstances at Barcelona this season compared to last, and he is obviously a magnificent player. We need to take a step back and remember just how much Griezmann cost Barcelona though. €120 million, or £107 million for the benefits of our UK viewers at that time at least. That is a ludicrous amount of money, enough to make Griezmann the 5th most expensive signing of all time. Griezmann cost more than Liverpool or Bayern Munich's front 3 combined, and he will turn 30 years old in March. Ultimately, with his sell-on value likely to be a small fraction of what Barcelona paid for him, the Frenchman will have to make an enormous contribution on the pitch to justify his wages and price tag. There are those who suggest that Griezmann will flourish should Lionel Messi leave Barca in the summer, and Griezmann inherit the mantle as Barca's star man. Maybe he will, and if he leads them to the La Liga title and a Champions League, then I will look foolish. For now, I can't see it. I think he was a woefully short-sighted signing for the price that Barcelona paid, and I think there were far shrewder options out there, regardless of his undeniable talent. Thomas Vermaelen. Make no mistake, I have a great deal of respect for Thomas Vermaelen, primarily because we both drive the same car, the mighty Nissan Figaro. Unlike Thomas, I don't have a Porsche as a backup in the garage for when mine breaks down, but hey, we're still blood brothers in my eyes. Regardless of his fine taste in automobiles though, the fact remains that Thomas Vermaelen ended up being a pretty disastrous piece of business by Barcelona. Following 5 good seasons at Arsenal, Vermaelen set Barca back a cool £15 million, which is enough to buy almost 4,000 Nissan Figaros. And that would be impressive, since there are only 20,000 of them manufactured in the first place. I'm getting distracted, aren't I? Anyhow, Vermaelen only made 1 appearance in his debut campaign, going under the knife for a recurring hamstring injury. In total, the Belgian only managed 34 league appearances in 4 seasons at the Camp Nou, and 53 in all competitions before departing for Vissel Kobe on a free transfer. He wasn't the most lucrative signing of the Bartomeu era, but he cost a substantial amount, he was almost permanently injured whilst on a sizable salary, and he left for nothing. Martin Braithwaite. As with Griezmann, there'll be some people out there saying, hang on, Martin Braithwaite has improved this season. Yes, he has. But so has George Honeyman at Hull City, it still doesn't mean that he should be playing for Barcelona. Martin Braithwaite is a man who had a hard time impressing at Middlesbrough, and whilst I'm not naive enough to think a player can't struggle at one club and succeed elsewhere, I've seen nothing in the years since to suggest that Martin Braithwaite is capable of playing up front for a team with La Liga or Champions League winning aspirations. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, Martin Braithwaite is about as fit to represent Barcelona as Francis Jeffers was to lead the line for England. Somewhat reminiscent of Manchester United signing Marouane Fellaini, even if he did a job on the pitch on occasion, the signing in of itself signalled a decline in the club's fortunes both on and off the pitch. And that's what I think Braithwaite is to Barcelona. What's more, I don't think he has improved all that significantly from what I've seen of him, and I suspect there are more gifted 16-year-olds in the La Masia Academy that most of us have never heard of. Braithwaite cost Barcelona €18 million, and he was given a 4.5-year deal with a €300 million release clause. Now, I've been wrong in the past, but I can't see anyone triggering that. Joking aside, Barca would do well to recoup €10 million for the Danish frontman, and whilst others cost more, I think he deserves to come in third. Philippe Coutinho. Philippe Coutinho recently came out and said that he hasn't met expectations at Barcelona, so hopefully he will understand his inclusion in this 7. In Coutinho's defence, it was hardly his fault that Barcelona decided to pay a ridiculous £105 million, with the possibility of rising to £142 million for him. Whilst Coutinho is a fabulous footballer who lit up the Premier League during his time on Merseyside, that is an outrageous amount of money, and a little like Griezmann, it left no room for error. There is a phrase in investing that a stock is priced for perfection, which basically means a company's share price is at a level where it could only be justified if everything went right for the business over the years ahead. That's basically what Philippe Coutinho is for over £100 million. If he had hit the ground running, formed partnerships all over the pitch, and began scoring and assisting goals for fun, maybe he could have justified that fee. As it happened, he had a mixed first 18 months at the Camp Nou, not bad, but not brilliant, then went out on loan to Bayern Munich, where he came on as a substitute and scored twice and assisted another in Barcelona's heaviest defeat in 80 years. So yeah, that's not great, is it? Honourable mentions. There are a few honourable or dishonourable mentions that I ought to address. First and foremost, probably Malcolm. His transfer saga was a bit of a mess, and he ended up doing nothing in Catalonia, but he was sold to Zenit St. Petersburg for an almost negligible loss, so he doesn't feature, primarily from a financial standpoint. Andre Gomez, very nearly featured, and who was the worst signing between him and Alcacer is pretty much splitting hairs. Alcacer did more at the Camp Nou, and endeared himself to Barca fans a little more, but the initial signing of Gomez made more sense, as he is quite a Barca player, so to speak. In hindsight, as I say this to you now, I'd probably put Gomez in my 7 and take Alcacer out, but it's a bit late for that, isn't it? Lastly, you have the two Vidals, Alex and Arturo. Alex having been the worst signing of the two, meanwhile Arturo tended to split opinion, and you could throw Jeremy Mathieu into the discussion for good measure. But now we come to top spot, the worst signing of the Bartomeu era, in my humble opinion. Arda Turan. The worst signing of the Bartomeu era at Barcelona, and one of the worst signings of all time, it would be quicker for me to name everything that was good about Arda Turan's signing than everything that was bad about it. So I'll just do that instead. He's not there anymore, and when he fired a gun in a hospital whilst on loan at Istanbul Başakşehir, he didn't kill anyone. Alright, well thank you for watching today. Don't worry, I'm not going to shortchange you like that. Turan cost Barcelona €34 million up front, plus a potential €7 million in add-ons, having been a real bright spark for 2013-14 La Liga title winners Atletico Madrid. Aggressive and inventive, Turan was thrilling to watch in the Spanish capital, but there was so much wrong with his transfer to Barcelona. For starters, he was signed in July, but he couldn't actually play until January due to Barca's transfer ban. By the time he could finally be registered, Turan didn't look anywhere near match fitness, somewhat unsurprisingly given the amount of time that he had been waiting in the wings. In all seriousness, if I were looking for positives, they would obviously be Turan's impressive form in the cup competitions during the 2016-17 campaign, and most notably, his Champions League hat-trick against Borussia Mönchengladbach. The following season, however, Turan went half a season without playing a single minute of football, before joining Istanbul Başakşehir on a 2.5-year loan deal. Turan's time at Istanbul was pretty chaotic, including that hospital incident, and Barca were paying a significant chunk of his wages, and all of his wages, for the last 6 months since Başakşehir terminated his loan deal midway through his final season. Turan finally left Barcelona in 2020 following 55 appearances in 5 seasons, having been signed for a potential €41 million and departing on a free transfer. So that is it for today's video, but thank you all as ever for watching. Do give us a like if you enjoyed the video, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on for HITC Sevens. Oh, and you can also find me on Twitter or Instagram, should you feel so inclined, via the username @HITC Sevens on both.